Hello everyone, we are going to talk about qualitative research. Before we start, there are two concepts I want to introduce. They are quite important. The first one is internal validity. You want to rule out alternative explanations before you are confident that the one factor you find or you believe in is the true explanation for certain things to happen. The example I give here is some people believe the more violent program people watch, the more likely they will get into fights. But the other alternative explanation may be personality. Aggressive people tend to watch more violent programming to start with. That's why they get into fights. So if you want to have internal validity, have real confidence in the explanation you are trying to propose, you have to rule out the alternative ones first. There is an example we give students a lot, is the rising in ice cream sale is often related to the rising crime rate. We will never say it's because we sell more ice cream, people are committing more crime. But the true reason behind it is the rising in temperature, because when it's summer, it's warmer, people would go out more, there will be more human interaction, interpersonal interaction, so crime rate would rise as well. So the true explanation behind the rise of ice cream sale and the rise of crime rate is actually the temperature. So if you want to have internal validity, you need to consider alternative explanations as well. The next one is external validity. It's the extent to which you can say that your results will be found across populations, settings, and time. Let's say if you confirmed playing violent video games increase aggression in the US, can you be confident that it can be generalized to Japan as well? Or does it matter the time? If you find that result in 2002, would that result still be valid in 2012? So external validity means your result itself is valid in the research you did itself, but how widely can we generalize the result? Again, internal validity and external validity are both very important, but it's not absolute sense that we always want highest internal validity and the highest external validity. It's usually not possible. There is a trade-off. The more research you do and the more research you read about, you will have a better understanding of it. But here, just remember that when we are doing qualitative research, when we're doing interview, focus group, case study, we're more concerned about internal validity. We want to make sure our explanation is the true cause of a certain phenomenon, but we are less concerned with whether our result can be generalized to different settings. Research paradigms are really important to understand before you choose a certain research method or when you try to critique a certain research method. The first paradigm, we call it positivism. Usually people use quantitative methods, uses tools to measure reality, test assumptions using statistics. The most common method used is survey, and sometimes people will use experiments. In social science, survey is more commonly used than experiments. The second research paradigm is interpretive. People who subscribe to this research paradigm believes that there is a unique reality for every individual. There is no standardized truth. So they are interested in how each individual interprets an event and how they process information and what kind of meaning they create through their experience. So if you are trying to understand, let's say, people's general understanding of an ambiguous movie ending or students' experience at the SFA, if you believe every individual have their unique experience, then you're probably a believer of the interpretive research paradigm. Critical research paradigm is less common in social science in general. Still, it uses qualitative methods. It can be observation, field observation, interview, focus group, and it mostly focuses on power structures and their influence on society and the media. There are a lot of research done by critical scholars. They study men and women's role in society, sometimes the power structure between men and women in the marriage. It's less commonly used by social science again, and then we're not going to spend a lot of time here. We're going to focus on positivism and interpretive research paradigm for the next few minutes. If we want to understand the key differences between positivism and interpretive research paradigm, we have to start with the role of the researcher. For positivism researchers, they believe their own role should be objective and separate. Let's say if I want to conduct a survey to understand your experience at SFA, that I think I can generalize the result, I will give you a standard survey, ask how much money you spend, how many credits you are taking, how happy you are with your professors, and my personality and my look, my way of talking shouldn't affect your answer. I will give you a piece of paper or send you a link. Everyone looking at the same survey. Everyone's experience is measured on the same scale. So the role of scholar is very separated from the research process itself. And I want to be as objective as possible. I want to use very clear language when I ask you questions. And everyone should look at the same version of the survey, the same design of the website. But when you're looking at interpretive research, those researchers believe in interactions. So if you're going outside to conduct interviews with 30 SFA students, who is doing the research is just as important as the question itself. If a female professor asking you, are you happy with your advisor, or a male professor asks you, are you happy with your advisor? You may give different answers, depends on your own gender. So the role of the researcher is not objective at all, and it's part of the research. You have to take that into consideration. The next factor we want to look at is design. With positivism research, we have to design the procedure before we start the research. We have a very clear protocol. Step 1, we are going to do this. Step 2, we are going to do that. It's all decided before the research starts, and you are not allowed to change the design after you started the research. But for the interpretive research paradigm, it's important your design would evolve during the study, because you may find something that you didn't expect it, and you have to follow up on that question. Let's say you're interviewing a student about their experience at SFA before. You think the money they spend, the time they spend, the interaction they have with their teacher, with their with their classmates are important. You ask those questions, but along the way, you find out they really care about the study space on campus. They care about the library a lot. You didn't think about that before you start the study. If you're doing the interpretive type of research, you subscribe to that kind of research paradigm. Of course, at this point, you will shift your focus. You will focus more on the library side, the research space, the study space, and the help they can get in the library. But if you're doing the positivism type of research, you can change your structure even if people give you unexpected result. You have to follow through or start over. The next factor will be settings. Positivism scholars believe in order to be as objective as possible, we want people come to the lab into the controlled setting to finish the experiment, to complete the survey. Let's say if I'm sending out the survey, I would prefer everyone come to my lab and finish it on a similar type of computer or on a similar piece of paper. If you do it whenever you want, wherever you want, I cannot guarantee you're paying 100% of your attention. I don't know if you're getting distracted. And I don't know people around you, whether who are the people around you and whether they will affect your answers, whether you're answering it on the screen and other people can see you answer. All those things matters. So controlled settings are preferred by positivism scholars. On the other side, interpretive scholars believe natural surroundings are the best because people give you the most honest answers when they're comfortable with their surroundings. If you ask, let's say, certain voters to come to the lab to tell you how they feel about the presidential candidate in the election season, they may get anxious or nervous about the fact that they are in the lab, they are being observed by scholars. They may give you the answer that they think you want to hear instead of giving you the honest answer. That's why for interpretive scholars, they think it's more important. If I want to know how voters think, I will go to their office. I will go to their home. I'll talk to them in the park they hang out, make them relaxed, and they will trust me. They won't get nervous. They're more likely to give me a real answer. So that's the difference in setting. The next one is the type of measurement we use. For positivism scholar, we try to use survey, or even when we do experiment, we try to measure everything with number points. Let's say on the scale of 0 to 10, how happy do you feel today? 0 means you don't feel happy at all. 10 means you feel really happy today. So the measurements are very standardized. For interpretive scholars, researchers themselves are the instruments. Say if you and your best friend are doing a research together, it really matters a lot who is asking the participant the questions if you're doing interviews or focus groups together. And it really matters who is reading the result. You may be reading the same line, but have completely different interpretation. So you need to work that differences out. It's not very standard. It really depends on who is doing the research, and their own experience, researchers' own experience will affect how they interpreted the result as well. So it's a very subjective process. The last one is theory. Positivism always starts with a theory or assumption that's well known or widely accepted. Then they will test the theory. But for interpretive scholars, they try to develop theories from data from their observation. They are usually interested in a phenomena and they start from there. When we talk about the theory difference, we have to talk about the two types of thinking. For positivism scholars, they usually use deductive thinking from general principle to specific individual. For interpretive scholars, they tend to use inductive thinking from specific observation all the way to theories that can generalize to a larger population. So here is the diagram to show you the process. I will give you two examples. One is positivism research, one is more interpretive research on D2L. Please watch those two presentations and see if you can tell which process they follow and really understand why they choose the certain types of thinking over the other.